He's from Brazil, as the same as it is Ivan.
Yes.
And we are live.
Yay! Boa noite, pessoal do Heavy Culture, Brasil, Portugal. Estamos aqui numa live especial num sábado, início de noite, recebendo uma lenda do death metal americano, Terry Butler, Death, Obituary, 6 Feet Under. Dispensa apresentações, né? O nosso ídolo de infância, de adolescência. E a gente está aqui com ele. Ivan, seja bem-vindo. O Ivan é fã do Massacre.
Massacre. Massacre.
O Miguel, né, já está aí todo, né, com a camisa do Death. Então, galera, participem. A gente está aqui numa roda de amigos e fiquem à vontade para participar. Miguel.
Okay, so now it's my turn. First I say olá a todos, em português.
Olá.
Hello.
Olá a todos de Portugal. E também do Brasil e dos Estados Unidos, aqueles que nos estão a ver e que falam a língua de Camões. After this I speak in English and I say welcome Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining the list of names of Heavy Culture channel, and I feel honored to have you with us.
The pleasure's all mine.
I hope that you and your family are doing well at this crazy time for everyone. And tell us a little bit about things. How are things going over there? Because we all concerned.
Yeah, I mean it's going. You know, we're still practicing, you know, social distancing, and you know, here at our house we don't really go out unless we need to get food or something, and we're still being as safe as possible. It's horrible. The whole world is experiencing this, and it's shut down a lot of stuff, but music industry has been completely shut down, and I just hope soon we can get a vaccine or something, and you know, get back to some kind of normalcy on the planet.
Okay, there are some countries, I think that I already saw that the Czech Republic is already doing live shows. Perhaps you have one gig one of these days here in Europe.
Yeah, it would be great, hopefully. I mean, you know, everything we had scheduled for this year has been postponed and is going to be rescheduled for 2021. So hopefully that will go through, you know, festival dates and some tours we had lined up.
Do you have I would like to ask you about the, you know, there's a movement here in Portugal, and I believe in Europe too, but I would like to ask you if in the US, are you getting some kind of aid to go through these crazy times from the stage or something like
yes.
an agency or what?
There is several different musical you know, outlets that help musicians. They've given some money, some grants, but not much, but they have helped out some. And fortunately the government has helped out some too. We got a couple stimulus checks, and you know, some people are able to collect some unemployment here and there, which helps out some. But it's a struggle, definitely. A lot of people are just barely holding on. And so hopefully something breaks soon to where we get our lives back, you know?
Yeah, we all hope so. I had one that I called the first question I had for you, but I already done some. Are you enjoying being a grandfather, being this a personal question? And is anyone following your steps in music?
Yes, I love being a grandfather. You know, grandkids are different than kids. You know, you love them in a different way. But I have 5 grandkids, and they're all awesome. And
man, already 5. Man.
Yeah, the oldest one is 11, so they're starting to get up there in age. And
you are what's your age?
I am 52, so I'm not too old.
Yeah, it's very cool. You started soon. You started like very young.
Well, yeah. You know,
that's the smartest thing to do.
Yes. But yeah, it's great. You know, I don't feel old at all. but you know, I have 5 grandkids, you know, 3 kids, and so
it's great. And anyone in the family following the you know, the Butler steps?
It's a little they're more into video games at the moment. But when
your
they get
kids
a
as
little older,
well?
what's that?
Your kids as well? Your sons?
The grandkids are
Oh,
a lot into music. The kids, the oldest one plays some guitar,
ooh.
and but they're, yeah, it's not as musical as it could be. But maybe the grandkids will I'll rub off on them some, and they'll play some music.
Okay, that's great. Now I'll go to Brazil and say to the guys to ask any question to Terry.
Pergunta para ele, Miguel, como é que estão as coisas com o Obituary? Acho que é uma boa pergunta.
Okay, George was asking how are things going with the Obituary at the moment?
Things are going good. Things are starting to kind of move along a bit. Actually started writing some new material for a new album. We have a handful of songs kind of written. A lot of rhythms getting kicked around. We're going to start practicing soon. We're going to be doing something really cool. I can't announce it yet. We're gonna announce it in about a week.
Not even a spoil.
I don't want to say it at the moment because I don't want to be the one to get in trouble.
Oh.
But it's going to be cool, and we'll blast it out over all the social sites. So we're, you know, for about 3 or 4 months, we kind of didn't do anything just because the world was crazy. I mean, it's still crazy, but so we're kind of starting to pick the instruments up right now and kind of do some stuff and, you know, get the blood flowing again. And our hope is in 2021, maybe in the first half of the year, put a new record out.
That's great. Ivan, chuta aí qualquer coisa.
Eu queria perguntar para ele se o timbre do baixo mudou bastante no Obituary. Depois que ele entrou, o baixo ficou mais pulsante, mais grave, mais pesado.
Okay, Ivan
uma coisa
is
que eu percebi isso.
The tone of your bass in Obituary, that it became more bass, more stronger than it used to be. He's asking maybe something technical about that subject. Have you done some changes?
No, I have the same kind of bass tone that I've had since I probably joined 6 Feet Under back in '94. You know, some of that has to do also with the way I play. I play a lot like a guitar player in some instances, and it adds a whole nother level of heaviness to the live sound. And on the records, they've made the last couple records that I've been on, the bass has been boosted up a bit, which I think is a positive. And I try to have a good bass tone live or in the studio. You know, that's just something I strive to do. Basically, I'm using the same equipment, the same style, same stuff. It's just the bass is more audible now in Obituary than it used to be.
I was going to ask you if you are still faithful with your travel bass.
Yes.
Okay. You still play with it?
Yes, actually, on the last tour I did. It has been retired for a little while, but I broke it out for the tour unfortunately, the tour that we had to stop in the middle of because of the virus. But yes, she's back in action.
Okay, but you mean you have no more secrets with your gear? It's just the bass, usual combo, or you have any kind of personal secret with your gear?
I mean, I've always used Ampeg cabinets for 810, old Ampeg head, like a SVT2 tube head. And I kind of live, I like to mix, and in the studio, I'll mix a nice clean tone with a real dirty tone and kind of combine them and mix them. As far as equipment, I mean, I use a rat pedal. I've used a rat pedal since the early 90s, and that's really what gives it that tone. And I just have to dial it in on the EQ on my head a little bit. And combine that with, I think I play a certain style that lends to a cool tone, and I play pretty aggressive and heavy when I play. You know, to me, the bass instrument's something to get the tone out of it. You kind of have to hit it. You kind of have to get into it, you know. And just like drums, you know, you got to beat on a drum to get a sound. So that's the same way I approach playing a bass, you know.
Does anyone ask you for advice? You know, when asking something about, hey man, how can you do this? What do you think it would be better for me? And the age of those guys, can you give us an average age of people that look for advice?
Well, some of the opening bands throughout the years, younger people that are just now starting to do what I did, you know, 30 years ago, it's, you know, want some advice, and I try and give them what I can, you know, and so they've definitely asked. So, you know, sometimes they may be 25, 22 years old, whatever, you know, here and there, they'll ask advice about not only the bass tone, but generally touring and, you know, how to do this professionally, you know.
Okay, Jorge?
Eu vou aproveitar. What's your main influence on the bass?
Well, it's funny because there's kind of two stages. Early on, when I was first wanting to play a bass and everything, I wanted to emulate my favorite bands at the time, which were Slayer, you know, Dark Angel, Venom, Possessed, this kind of stuff. That was like a big influence, but it wasn't so much as the influence as actually bass style. It was just playing heavy like that, you know. It wasn't until a little bit later that I, you know, got into actually, okay, you know, what is playing bass? What, you know, what are some of the better bass players out there? So I'm really into Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy. He's my hero. I love the way he plays bass. Of course, he's an amazing vocalist, storyteller. But also, you know, Geezer Butler, he's a beast. He's a monster on bass. You know, Geddy Lee, Steve Harris, John Paul Jones, John Entwistle. These guys were all just like gods, you know, and just like men among boys as far as playing. And those are definitely my heroes and idols.
Okay, and Ivan, tens mais alguma pergunta?
Okay.
How do you say killer bassist?
What's that?
Como?
Os baixistas que ele citou são baixistas, são músicos matadores, né? Músicos excelentes.
He was saying that all the musicians you mentioned are masters.
Yeah, they are. They're amazing. I mean, you know, one can only try to play like them. You can never play like them, but you can strive to try to be like them. You know.
Yeah, you have a long way to go, and I'm sure that you will follow. But we were speaking about gods, you know, in music, and you are humble. I know that, but I tell you that you are one of the gods of death metal. That's for sure. And
thank you.
It's kind of impossible not to go to the past. We can't forget about the past, and
nope,
our main goal is to you know, to help people that are new on the scene to understand it better. So we have to go to the past, and this reminds me that the first time I read your name was in 1988 after buying Leprosy, my favorite album of all time. And I bought that after the premiere of the Promo Death record on a national radio show with the track Pull the Plug. The first time I listened to Pull the Plug, it was like, oh! As I say, my path was settled by then. I have to tell you that. And I have a question related to that time, that why have all the Massacre members decided to make a pause with the band and join Chuck? And was it due to the difficulty of signing a record deal for Massacre by that time?
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of intertwining history with Massacre and Death. I'll do my best to try and go through the fog of this. Yeah, Bill Andrews started Massacre. Alan West and him started it. So when Alan left, Rick Ross joined the band, and Cam was already in the band. You know, Cam was in Mantis and played on a couple Death demos. So, you know, Massacre put out a couple demos, and we did a small tour up the East Coast. We set it up ourselves, and when we came home, a few months went by, and Rick was at a concert, and he met a guy he knew from Orlando, and the guy told him, you know, Chuck just moved back to Orlando, and he doesn't have a band because Scream by the Gore had just come out, and Chuck moved from California to Orlando. Chris Reifert stayed in California. So Rick took it upon himself. He's like, you know what, I'm going to go over to Chuck's house and talk to him. So Rick went to Chuck's house. They talked a little bit, and we agreed to kind of audition, you know, so to speak, to be, you know, to join Death, because Massacre at the time really wasn't doing a whole lot. I mean, you know, we sent the tape out to a bunch of labels, and I guess we kind of looked at this as like a good opportunity. You know, Death was already an established band; they had a record contract, and so we started rehearsing together, and it was a perfect fit. You know, so Death had a band at that point because they never really had a full band, definitely not a full band that could ever go on the road and tour. So now Chuck had a full lineup of a band that could go right on the road and start playing shows, and that's what we did. So Massacre was kind of put on hold, if you want to say, you know, I mean.
Okay. I also have to know by you how it was to be touring with this unfamiliar sound of death metal at the time. How did the Headbangers reacted to such an intense and heavy sound? And can you tell us something about the venues conditions by the late 80s?
Sure. Actually, it was a very successful tour. I mean, death metal was young at that point. It was starting to get its legs and walk, you know. I mean, and it was great to be part of getting that out to play at shows. You know, we packed everything in a tiny little van, and we did like a 15-date tour for Scream Bloody Gore in early '88, and not a whole lot of death metal bands were touring and doing it successfully, and we did that, and it was great. The venues were cool. The venues we played at were a lot of rock venues, you know, because I mean, metal in general, and death metal was just getting going. So, and a lot of the places were packed. It was great. We sold a lot of merch, and it was a good time. It was, you know, at the time we had no idea that we were kind of forging a path for other death metal bands. We were just on the road and glad to play music live.
And you have any story of something funny? Imagine you went to a concert and something unexpected happened, and how did you turn it the best way possible? Do you have any story to you know, to share with us?
Well, there's a bunch, I'm sure, but I don't remember a whole lot of them. But I mean, you know, it was an adventure because it was something new. I mean, we all crammed into a tiny little van with all of our guitars and drums and luggage and everything, and it was just an adventure every day. I mean, it was something new for us. None of us had really driven out of state or even been out of state, out of Florida, you know, and now we're going across the country as 19, 20-year-olds. So it was just a fun time the whole time, you know.
You imagine this, any car trouble with a long trip, for instance, or everything went well?
On that particular tour, there really was no trouble, but, you know, tours after that, there was some instances where, you know, tires blew out, you know, and just crazy stuff. But
and so how was the farthest car travel you have done in the US, for instance?
Well, I mean, in one shot, we drove from Utah to Orlando, which is, you know, I think probably 2,000 miles straight. Yeah, but in general, you're driving from show to show, which isn't too long, you know. But that was definitely a long, crazy trip home right there.
Ok. Ivan, como músico, deixa-me questionar-te o que é que gostavas de perguntar assim ao Terry, mais relacionado com a parte dos ensaios, por exemplo. Ora, eu acho que perdi o vosso som, mas...
Sorry.
Agora ganhei.
Qual é o método de composição atual do Obituary? Como é que eles compõem?
Okay,
se ele
Ivan,
tem participação nas composições?
Ivan is asking about the way that you guys write music at the moment with Obituary. If you collaborate with songwriting for new songs with the guys now.
Yeah.
How does it work? Yeah, that was the question.
We don't have a certain like template format, but what happens is sometimes when we're on the road on tour for sound checks, Trevor might just bust a rhythm out of nowhere, and we're all like, "Oh, that's cool. We'll record that." So we'll record that rhythm right there on the spot, and when you get home from the tour, you get a collection of rhythms recorded and stuff. So he'll get together with Donald and kind of just bust some of those out, and they'll kind of work it out. And then if Ken or I have some ideas to bring to the table, we'll do that. We'll present the rhythms to them and everything, and we kind of put it together. Just like one big recipe. The vocals are always kind of last. John likes to hear the whole song and get a feel for the song before he starts really putting some vocals to it and some lyrics to it. But everything is wide open. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone can, say what they think about the songs. It's completely, wide open in that regards, which is great because you can bounce ideas off of each other. And we take our time. We don't want to rush, put some songs out that aren't worthy. So that's kind of it,
Okay, this is a question that makes a new question. That's what's your position on these technologies that we use these days? Because some of the stuff is very nice to you have a phone and that's it. Let's record this at the spot. It's much easier now.
Definitely, in that regards, it's a lot better. Back in the day, I mean, you'd have to kind of get out your own boom box and hit record. I mean, a lot of demos were made that way. You just press record. But now, as far as home, writing music at home and recording some rhythms to show your bandmates and stuff is amazing. Even in the studio now with Pro Tools and everything, it's just amazing that you don't even really need to even be there in the same studio. You can send files back and forth and put it together. With that you lose some of the feeling sometimes of it. We record everything at the studio there at John's house, and that's the same place we practice at and everything. So it's a nice feeling there, But
you guys are taking care of your own recordings now. Is that right?
Yes, we have our own record. Yeah, Obituary's had their own recording studio for probably 15 years now. And the last, I believe, 5 albums were done there on Redneck Studios in Gibsonton. So that's great because we're familiar with it. It's a familiar atmosphere when you come in there. So, because sometimes going in the studio can be a really weird experience. It can be very sterile. You feel like you're at a hospital sometimes. It's very weird. You get uncomfortable. So,
Okay.
You definitely want to be comfortable when you're recording.
Tem uma pergunta para ele. Ele já tocou em 4 grandes bandas, que é o Death, Massacre, o 6 Feet Under e agora o Obituary. Qual foi o álbum que ele mais gostou de ter gravado?
Okay, Ivan is asking, being on 4 big names of death metal, he mentioned the names, and we all know the names of your past projects. He's asking, what was your favorite album to record?
Okay.
It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many great albums from those 4 bands that you mentioned.
Yes.
But ones I'm really proud of, I mean,
yeah,
is obviously Spiritual Healing.
Spiritual Healing.
I helped write 4 songs with Chuck on that album, so it's special. The way we recorded that album, we all were together in a little warehouse, and you know, we're all like a team working together. That's great. And the last Obituary album, the self-titled album, very proud of that. It's a toss-up between those two.
I have it over here. This makes me ask you, stating that there's a significant difference from leprosy to spiritual healing, and what's your opinion about these differences? What can you tell us about that?
Well, it was kind of a natural progression, in my opinion, because if you listen to Scream Bloody Gore and Leprosy, you can see a difference. Leprosy is a little more polished. It's still raw and heavy, but some of the melodies started to come in, especially with the solos and stuff. And then Spiritual, it's like once we got James in the band, his abilities just opened the door for a lot of cool things. And him and Chuck played off each other very nicely. And like, I don't think we sat down and said, okay, we've got to make this album a little more musical and a little more progressive and a little more melody in it than we did Leprosy. It just turned out that way. And I think that's just part of Death's, you know, style. Each album got a little more progressive, a little different, you know.
Okay, and before leaving Death, the story is well known, but I'd like to ask you if on the the later years of Chuck, if you used to speak with him. I really don't know if you guys used to speak to share some ideas. How was it?
Unfortunately, I was not able to actually speak to him. There was a time at the Milwaukee Metal Fest, Death were playing the day after us, and I saw Chuck in the crowd. It was like an after party thing. There was a lot of people there, and I could see him across the room, but I never made it that way, and you know, to talk to him. Obviously, I wish I had, but you know, I never got a chance after that to bump into him or talk to him.
Okay. There will be a question from this viewer, Nuno Miguel, that is asking about the idea of art. What you think of the artworks of Scream Bloody Gore and Spiritual Healing? He's asking Nuno Miguel.
I think they're awesome album covers. I love it. You know, I mean, they're total metal in my opinion. I know that Spiritual Healing is a little brighter of an album. You know, got whites and blues in there and stuff. But I think that kind of lends to the lyrics of the song, and it kind of lends to, you know, you got a nice sky in the background, there's flowers and stuff, but this guy in a wheelchair is dying and no one to help him. It's kind of a contrast, you know. But Ed, you know, Repka obviously did some amazing album covers, and I love both of those album covers. I think they're great. Total contrast between each other, but still killer.
Yeah, indeed, and totally metal, indeed.
Miguel?
About Jorge, diz? Sim?
Eu ia perguntar para ele a visão dele das novas bandas de death metal, se ele tem, está curtindo, está acompanhando, né? Tentar fazer um paralelo entre a época de ouro ali da Flórida com o atual cenário, se está bom, se está ruim.
Okay, George is asking about the new bands, if you follow the new bands, and if you can trace a parallel between the golden age of death metal from Florida and the new bands. Are you following any of the new stuff? and what are your thoughts about the death metal that is made today?
I don't follow a whole lot of. I mean, I listen to. I'm always on the internet, and I hear songs and new videos from all the bands, but I'm just kind of stuck in my way of the music I like. I mean, I like the certain style of death metal, such as Leprosy, you know, Obituary, Possessed, that kind of stuff. Bands like Gatecreeper, I really like. They're a new, old school band, so to speak. That style I really like. You know, and no disrespect to any new bands at all. You know, like, you know, Decrepit Birth and Misery Index and all that. Those are great bands, and even the older bands are still around. Immolation, you know, Malevolent Creation. These kind of bands are great and amazing. But I still prefer to listen to some of the older school kind of sounding bands.
Like me, I'm stuck.
Ô Miguel, pergunta do Gruelson. Pergunta do Gruelson.
Your thoughts on Gruesome Project? You know, the way they are doing their career, they will be out of a record soon.
Yeah, they better slow. They have to slow down a little bit, or they'll be out of ideas. No, I really like Gruesome. They're awesome people, and I have no issue with it at all. I think it's great. It's just in the vein of death, and
you think they emulate well?
Yeah, they do it great. Why not? Cool. You know, it'd be like another band that's like, okay, Slayer's gone now, but here's a band that sounds like Slayer. Awesome, great. No, I got no problems with that.
And you have any contact with them? You know, imagine that they would invite you to do a song with them, but now they already went through Death's discography. But imagine this: they will go back and hey, let's ask Terry to join us with the song.
I've actually played. I played with them live a couple times.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
great.
I've done. I think I've done Pull the Plug with them a few times and Open Casket maybe once.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on with your career, how was it to jump back to your previous project after leaving Death, the Mighty Massacre?
Yeah.
Do you remember how much time you needed to write From Beyond?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, I think the last couple weeks of a Death tour we did in Europe, you know, we did a tour without Chuck in Europe. I know that it sounds insane, but it's a huge, long story, and maybe for another time. But anyhow, towards the end of that, we call it Were It Wind that Cam and Rick got Massacre back together, which we thought was kind of funny because it's Bill Andrews' band. But I called Rick from Denmark, from Copenhagen. I said, yeah, you know, we heard you guys are getting Massacre together again. I said, we're not in Death anymore, basically. So when we come home, how about getting back together and, you know, let's put a record out. Because Earache Records had interest, we heard. So that's what happened. We came home, we rehearsed for maybe a month or two. We rehearsed all the old songs that were from the demos that were done in '86. And we went to More Sound and recorded that album. And our intention was to record that album, maybe do a tour, then get back in the studio and write new songs. Well, From Beyond did so great that we did 2 tours. And we went back in the studio and did Inhuman Condition, which had 1 new song and some of the other songs recorded, and it had a Venom cover, Warhead. And that was well received. Yeah, that was well received.
By the way, Jeff asked me to send his regards to you.
Oh, cool.
Jeff. Yeah,
yes,
Jeff
yes. Jeff is awesome. Hello, Jeff. But yeah, so we did 3 tours, and we kind of started writing some new songs, but then Rick and Cam, I guess, wanted to go in a different direction, and that's that Promise record that you heard like 3 years later. Like Earache kind of buried it, and it came out like in '96 or something, and it was like sounded like Pantera or something. But so that the transition was easy, slipping right back into that because the songs were familiar, and so that was nice to land on our feet, Bill and I. from the death thing to get right back in there and get Massacre going again, you know, on the road was cool.
Ok. Jorge, passo para ti agora.
Contar para nós aí o que ele achou das experiências no Brasil, né? Ele teve com Obituary algumas vezes. Eu assisti, eu acho que 2 ou 1. O que ele acha do Brasil aí? Se está nos planos retornar?
Okay, Jorge is asking your thoughts on Brazil, the times you traveled to Brazil to play, and what are your thoughts, and if you are thinking on returning.
Brazil is amazing. I love the culture, the country, the scenery. The fans are amazing. We have a great time every time we're there. It's, you know, we're with a good production company, and they take care of us. The shows are always great. I love going to Brazil very much.
Tem alguma banda brasileira que ele lembra, Miguel?
And before heading to the Jorge questions, I have to ask about Portugal as well. Guarda essa, Jorge. Do you still think, not you, but the major part of the American guys think that Portugal is a Spanish place? And do you remember Portugal? And do you think that that Portuguese food is something that you take with you? You know, when you leave Portugal after eating here, do you still feel like, oh my God, I have to return to that country?
No. Actually, again, I love Portugal, and our band's pretty smart, so we know it's not Spanish at all. But some people think it is. Yes, Ken, our guitar player in Obituary, he's part Portuguese, so he's familiar with that. The food is great.
Know that.
Yes,
yeah. We have a Portuguese guy in Obituary, and we don't know about it.
He's got some Portuguese in his bloodline. Yes.
I
think his father is Italian Portuguese. So.
Oh, that's great to know. That's great.
But yeah,
to know.
it's great. Yeah.
Jorge, ias perguntar se
bandas brasileiras, não, ele já falou que não acompanha muitas bandas novas, né? Mas no Brasil chamou alguma banda chamou atenção.
Do you remember playing with any Brazilian band, and if any of those bands, you know, caught your eye?
I'm
sure Sepultura.
Well, yeah, and I think it's Nervo Chaos. They're Brazilian, or we played some shows with them. But a lot of the bands were local, and unfortunately, I don't remember their names. You know, we went over one time and toured Brazil. It was with Asheron, so they were, you know, there wasn't any local bands, but I remember a lot of the bands from back in the 80s, death metal bands, and I'm not sure what countries they were from, but, you know, Volcano and Massacre and, you know, these kind of bands.
They have good stuff there.
Yes.
They have good stuff there.
Yeah.
Going back, returning to Portugal, have you tried the Porto wine?
Oh, the Porto wine.
Porto wine.
Porto wine.
Like wine that you drink? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The Porto wine is
yeah. Okay. No, I don't. I actually don't drink wine myself, but some of the other guys in the band do. I don't myself personally. I've tried several times, but to me, it tastes like warm dirt. And and if I was to drink wine, it would be not even wine. It would be like too sweet to even be called wine. It'd be like fruit juice. So.
Yeah. Totally get you.
But okay, I do like the. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Caipirinha, the drinks.
Caipirinha.
Yeah.
Oh.
Those are dangerous. They're so good.
Dangerous.
Yeah. Those are the ones that you drink when you are sitting, and then you suddenly get up. Oh, whoa! It's quite a windy. It's windy.
Those are tasty. Yeah. I've had a couple of those.
You should try some of the drinks we have here in Portugal that are just like that: beer, champagne, and yellow sugar. You drink a lot, is very good, and then when you get up, oh man!
All right,
great. Okay, going forward. So today I have found this here.
Oh.
Your first with 6 Feet Under, and this is an awesome album.
Yeah, it's a good record. Yeah,
I have to tell you, from 6 Feet Under, this is my favorite. So I'm personally, it's my favorite. But how was it to follow from? So Death and Massacre, they are not so far away, with style. But this album, Haunted, was really different. How was it to go to 6 Feet Under and going with them for something like 15 years?
16 years. I mean, it was a good it was a good transition. It's funny, a little of the backstory to that. I think around 92 or 93, Alan West contacted me and he gave me a demo. He said he wanted me and Bill Andrews to play on it. And I listened to the music, and it was cool. It was cool music. It was definitely Alan West's style of writing music. So I said, yeah, I'm on board. Well, I never heard from him, for like a year and a half. So in late 94, I believe, Greg Gall called me and said, hey, I'm over here jamming with Alan. Why don't you come over and put some bass on it? Let's hear what it sounds like. So it's like, sure. So I went over, and it was the songs off that tape that Alan had given me 2 years earlier. I'm like, dude, this is the songs that were on that tape. Why didn't you call me? He's like, oh, I got busy and sidetracked, whatever. So, so we started rehearsing, and Alan pretty much had all the songs written for Haunted. So we started rehearsing, and it sounded great. So, Greg and I just were kind of absorbed into the band. I think Alan and Chris kind of did like a demo with a drum machine in late 93-ish kind of. I think those songs might be available on some kind of box set from 6 Feet Under or something, but it was those same songs that Alan had given to me. They just put a drum machine on them, and Chris sang some vocals on them. So Greg and I kind of entered the band a few months later, and it was great. Yeah, that first Haunted record is a great record. I had a great time. Scott Burns, I have to tip my hat to him. He's the one that kind of helped me dial in the bass tone on that record, and it's a killer bass tone that's on there.
I support that. I'm sure that you were quite happy to join 6 Feet Under since you got married with Greg's sister.
No, it's the other way around. Greg married my sister.
Oh, so yes. I was reading the opposite way.
That's okay.
but okay, so you are brothers-in-law, and what's Greg doing right now?
These days, he's just kind of being a family man, working. He did a little project with me called Hideous, which is still out there. It's just we're all so busy that we don't have time to really sink a lot of time into that project. But he's not really drumming at the moment, just kind of being a family man.
Okay, and do you still or you still meet any of these guys from if you meet for instance Alan and Chris, or were you a fan of Chris in previous Cannibal Corpse records?
I respected what they were doing, but I'm not really a fan of that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm more of a fan now than I was when it came out, because I guess they did their job. When the first record came out, it was pretty extreme, and I was like, I don't know if I like that. now I go back, I'm like, this isn't so extreme. It's really cool. But at the time, I was respectful of what they were doing, but I wasn't like, my jaw didn't hit the floor when I heard it. You know what I mean? But I haven't talked to Chris since I quit the band. Alan, I've talked to a few times over the years, and Steve Swanson, he's the guy that took Alan's place. I text him every now and then. Yeah.
Okay. Ivan, Salta daí uma pergunta.
Quando eles formaram o Six Feet Under, era praticamente um super grupo, né? Que tinha ele. Então, qual a ideia dos caras de formar uma nova banda? Que a banda era uma mistura de Cannibal Corpse com o próprio Obituary.
Okay, Ivan is asking a very interesting question. When you guys decided to go forward with 6 Feet Under, because this was a kind of a super group with kind of Cannibal Corpse and Obituary together, what were your thoughts when releasing this new band to the market?
Yeah, I mean, I think our intention was to be dark and heavy and kind of some groove in the music. We wanted to be a little different. Like, we didn't want to sound like Cannibal Corpse with Obituary rhythms, you know, like blast beats over the top of Obituary rhythms or some death stuff in there. We wanted it to be kind of totally different sounding. And I think we accomplished that. I mean, that Haunted and Warpath is pretty much what 6 Feet Under were about. You know what I mean? That's what the band started as and what it was, you know.
Ok. Jorge?
Tem uma outra pergunta para ele.
Fala, Ivan.
Qual álbum de death metal que ele gostaria de ter gravado? Que ele não gravou, que ele não participou, mas que ele queria ter gravado.
This is a hard one, Terry. Okay, right. What's the death metal record that you would like to have recorded but you haven't?
Oh, okay. I think Left Hand Path by Entombed would have been amazing to be on. That's an amazing record. Yeah. Probably Hard Work by Carcass.
Ooh.
Love that record. Seven Churches would have been amazing, you know. I'm sure there's a few more out there if I really think about it. But
any of the Slayer albums?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Slayer, like that area, they're like not really death metal, but they're not really thrash. They're kind of in that gray area there. So yeah, I mean, obviously, recording on any of those.
This was a tricky one.
Yeah, would have been amazing doing any of those. Yes, or even like, you know, to Megatherium from Celtic Frost. You know.
So you feel that you have a lot of European kind of influences?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, I'm a record collector, so even before death metal even existed, I was collecting metal records, and a lot of the killer stuff was from Europe, obviously, definitely, yeah.
So you collect records. This means that you buy them or you get offered?
No, I collect them. It's been a while since I bought some records, but, you know, a record collector definitely, and you know, it was a lot of fun.
It still is. It still is.
Yes.
Jorge.
A última pergunta é sobre esse vídeo aqui, ó. Esse show aqui caiu como uma napalm na minha cabeça quando eu era um garoto e assisti esse vídeo aí. Não sei vocês, né? Qual a lembrança que ele traz da Ultimate Revenge Tour? Com Forbidden, com Raven, né? Death. Que tipo de lembrança ele traz dessa turnê? Porque esse vídeo aí foi muito, muito difundido no Brasil, né? E até hoje a gente tá sempre assistindo, né? Pelo menos eu, né?
Okay, Terry, you are on the phone, but I don't know if you can see the pictures.
Yes, I can.
George was, you know, saying that this tour, the videos that are out there were a lot, you know, spread in Brazil and Europe, of course.
Yeah.
And he's saying that marked him, left him a big mark. Like a napalm bomb when watching this, and you know, touring with bands like Forbidden, Death, of course, and the other bands. Jorge, quais é que foram as outras bandas que eu não me recordo?
Raven, Fatal Fear.
Yeah, okay, these bands. Yeah, and you know,
yeah, the video.
Do you think this video had a lot of influence, you know, helping guys to you know, have a different way to look at the metal scene at that time.
Absolutely. It was a huge success. All 5 bands, it was in Philadelphia at the Trocadero, and it wasn't even a tour. It was just like a one-off show. They recorded it, and I think it was very well received. It was very popular. It went out throughout the whole world, and it introduced people to bands they've never seen before. You know, Dark Angel Death.
Dark Angel.
Definitely 2 of them. Dark Angel's on that video as well.
Yeah.
And it was great. You can see the crowd's amazing. And when we went on tour after this, and it was incredible. Packed places, and it was very well received. Because even the one before this, Ultimate Revenge, the first one, was very popular. So when this one came out a few years later, it was very popular as well.
E tinha uma criança mesmo nesse show? Pergunta pra ele.
Okay.
Até onde a gente se impressiona com aquela criança passando ali.
Okay. George was asking if there was really a kid on this show, because we see him, you know, going through the crowd over there. Kids, if there were kids watching the show.
Yeah, there was all ages were watching. Yeah,
All ages.
yes.
Amazing. I wish that the time could turn back and that you guys could come to Europe again and do this show, this particular show. What a great
That was a good lineup. This Leprosy lineup right here was really good, and we helped put. I mean, Death was already kind of on the map, but we helped solidify the band as a touring band to go out and play throughout the country, and it was a lot of fun.
Ok. Ivan?
Uma última pergunta. Nesse show ele está usando um baixo igual ao modelo do Tom Araya usava em 84.
Oh!
Okay. Ivan is saying that your bass on this video is the same as Tom Araya used to play with.
Yeah,
This is the shovel.
That is a BC Rich. I still have that. I still have that bass. It is called a Wave, BC Rich Wave.
Okay, I also have a last question, and the best advice you can give to, imagine this: there are some 13-year-old kids that nowadays is more common than in the past.
Yeah.
What's your best advice to knowing that what's happening now, the way bands spread their work? What's your best advice to those kids that are practically starting now?
I would say one of the main things, if you're starting out now, is to just try to practice as much as you can. Try to cover some songs. Try to learn other people's songs. It just helps you out so much more, your chops, It can help you develop an ear. And if you're forming a band, if you're in your father's garage, your parents' garage, just practice as much as you can and play out live as much as you can. And don't be afraid to fail, because believe it or not, even at some point, Yngwie Malmsteen wasn't good at some point. He had to learn. The same with everyone. You have to fail sometimes to be able to go forward. So don't be afraid to have some setbacks. But it's all mainly just practicing. And once you do get good enough to play out live as much as possible. And if you ever get to the point where you can sign a contract, by all means, have a lawyer look at it, an entertainment lawyer, and have them look at it with you, But a lot of it is just to build your confidence. You have to do things. You have to try things. You're never going to go forward if you don't try something.
My God, that's the best advice I've listened at Aviculture, because it's very wide open to, it's very interesting to know the background that you have, feeling that you have to practice, you have to be perseverant, and that you have to get advice from those who really know what's going on, behind all the
Yes.
the videos and everything that we learn or we read on magazines, and that's quite interesting to know and spread.
And another thing is, okay, if you know you're really good, and a lot of people know you're really good, you still don't have to be cocky and be an asshole. Be humble. Be a nice human being. Just be cool. You know, you're going to get a lot farther in life being that.
Oh my God. With this, I tell you, Terry, it was my honor to have you here. I feel so, you know, so lucky to talk with you and to realize that you are a great human being, and those advices speak for you, you know.
Well, thank you. Pleasure is all mine.
So much.
Thanks for the interview.
As we say in Portuguese, and we say it in Portugal and Brazil, obrigado.
Para encerrar, pergunta se ele gosta de VIO-LENCE, que é o nosso próximo convidado.
Okay, Ivan is asking that if you like violence, they are back, and
yes.
He's asking if you like it, and Sean will be our next guy
yes.
in heavy culture. It will be the yes. next one.
Awesome.
If you would like to see, please subscribe and let us spread the metal around the world in Portuguese, in English, and that's it. It's an invitation for you to watch our next live.
As Chuck would say, let the metal flow.
Yeah, let the metal flow, indeed. George.
Okay, thank you, Terry, and waiting for you in Brazil again.
Hopefully next year.
Death metal forever.
Death Metal Masters.
It's in our hearts.
It is.
Isso aí, galera, obrigado aí pela participação. Sábado, Terry Butler. Terça-feira aí, VIO-LENCE, Killian com a gente. Ivan, Miguel, obrigado. Terry, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Obrigado.
Obrigado. That's the best way to say goodbye here.
Valeu, galera. Obrigado.
Send our best to all the guys in Obituary.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Grande entrevista. Gosto muito de falar com